Ever since I started playing Direct Strike about a month ago, I've stopped shaving. Please send help, it's that much fun. But seriously, Direct Strike is a hot new user map generated and made by the community, and it is playable in Warcraft 3. The only problem is, I've ruined it. Or so I've been told. By streaming my gameplay on Twitch and uploading it to YouTube, I've accidentally introduced hundreds and thousands of new players to the game. The result? Dozens of unsuspecting veterans have been subjected to the horror of playing with people who, well, aren't very good yet. And apparently I'm the one to blame. How do I know this? Because 3 people have told me that they said I ruined it. So I did what any self-respecting investigator would do. I headed to the Direct Strike Discord. I went to the server and I hit Ctrl F for the words Grubby and ruined. And the reasons for why I supposedly ruined Direct Strike are interesting. Let's jump into it. So the first part is that seemingly I've been setting the wrong example. You know, I only started a month ago, but the map has been around for several years. We're in version 6.0 point something now, and obviously before 6 comes 5, and well, I don't need to patronize you. You guys know the rest. So apparently I've been showcasing some beginner mistakes. Going for wrong unit choices, wrong hero choices, positioning wrongly, getting my timings wrong, and maybe even getting too many gold mines. You see, you can make up to 4 gold mines, but maybe practical is to have 1, 2, or most 3. But I like to try out things. As a new player, naturally I'm going to be making mistakes and I'm going to be learning at my own pace, while also experimenting and seeing what extremes I can get away with in terms of gold, greed, fast tech, and so forth. Undeniably, some of my viewers are going to be trying out some of those things that they see on my stream or on my YouTube by themselves. And then I get blamed for that by some of their teammates, and they blame me for their 4 gold mine shenanigans. It's almost as if my viewers have no free will, that I'm some kind of demagogue influencer, that if you see me do 4 gold mines, then you have to do 4 gold mines. And I don't think that makes no kind of sense to me. Like, they can't think for themselves. Everyone in my chat, everyone on my YouTube are individuals. So aside from Discord logs, I've also had a guy talk to me when I was in a game with him in Direct Strike. You know, I was just waking up, I walked my dog, and then I started my day by starting with a game of Direct Strike, as you do. Technically, it's not an addiction, it's preparation for the stream. That's how disciplined I am. I am very serious about preparing my stream content, and in order to show the best possible play and take away some of those naysayers about my strategies, I have to get better. So playing in the morning before my stream begins is a way for me to do better stream content. After all, I'm not addicted, and the proof is right here. The developers actually put a character with my name on it in the map as an Easter egg, and it says right there that I'm not addicted to the map. So if it's written, then it must be true, right? So I had a game here, and maybe I can show it to you guys. There it is. So let's look at what happened in the chat. Playing off stream, I see. Remember to sleep, Grubby. Truly lost to the addiction. Hey, mighty Grubby. I said nothing wrong with a little wake-up game, like the old days when we were kids. Technically, this can be considered work for me, guys. What's your excuse? And yo, Grub, big fan, first time running into you, GOHF. I'm in between calls, he says. I'm like, dude, what if the game goes long? Are you gonna miss a call? I have my priorities. Alright, same is true. I have my priorities too. I have to play in between my streams, or else I can't play in between my streams. There you go. I think that makes a lot of sense. He thinks so. And then suddenly, Sleshny Schleck says, people say you destroyed this mode by streaming it. And I think, well, golly gee. Well, have I ever. This is the 3rd time someone said this. So I say, who are these people? What do you mean I destroyed this mode? All I do is play it. No idea, but I heard them complaining. I'm like, who is them? Who is them? And why did I ruin Direct Strike? I said, who's them? People who play this mode. I never heard anyone complain. And he says some of them. I think, okay, I need to know who these are. Better be grateful he's creating the DS Pro scene for old people who can't do high APM games anymore. I don't know why old people are catching strays here. I know that doesn't include me. And I'm like, yeah, of course new players are gonna come into Direct Strike. It makes the mode not dead. And then after a few weeks, all my little grublings will be pro, and then they will complain again. Oh, Grubby ruined this mode. Everyone's so pro now. I can't win anymore. And so that was kind of the end of that conversation. But it's kind of one part of trying to understand who they is and what is my crime. So now you guys have seen some proof. So how many players have exactly been coming into the game actually because I started playing it? Well, we've got this right here. This graph here shows the direct strike popularity. Basically, how you need to see this is this shows the popularity difference between all the different game modes that can be hosted on W3 Champions. But right now, I've just postulated Direct Strike 3v3 and 1-on-1 together. Basically, the popularity is 14,733. You have to divide that by 3 to get the total amount of games per day. So that's like 4,500 and above, right? And then for 1-on-1, the amount of games is about 4,000. So there are now more games of Direct Strike than 1-on-1. It has gone up a lot. I started playing around 28 August. That's where the spike was. People really like the mode and have been having a lot of fun. So it's true that there have been a lot of new players. And if you just look at the yellow area, the amount of games per day used to be 250. Now it's 4,500. So that's times 18x or so. So yes, there are a lot new players. And in fact, purely by numbers, not looking at MMR, that means that every game is going to have between the 6 players, statistically there could be 5 new players. So what kind of effect does that have? Well, it's not just people, by the way, quitting 1-on-1 and then changing to Direct Strike. Overall, W3 Champions as a platform has gone from an average of 3,000 players a day to over 6,000. So it's more than 2x as well. So why did I start playing Direct Strike? Well, basically my pinky finger was hurting. I had a small little nerve irritation, my pinky finger hurt, and because of the way that I pressed the control button with my finger, which by the way is like this, I couldn't make control groups anymore, and it made me worse at 1-on-1. Since then, my pain has gone away, but my enjoyment of Direct Strike has not, and through playing it, many new people started playing. And new players aren't very knowledgeable yet when it comes to knowing the game, despite maybe sometimes watching my stream, right? And so they come in at an average MMR, and more about that later. But anyway, anyone coming in at an average MMR will be matched with veterans that also have an average MMR. And the thing is, a system doesn't know how good new players are. You could be the sweatiest, most talented super gamer coming into a game after studying the game for hundreds of hours on your favorite streamer's Direct Strike channel, or maybe you come in almost completely blind just with an inkling of what it even is. So the system doesn't know how good you are when you come in. You've got to come in at some form of MMR. That's the average MMR number. And then, of course, based on the games that you play, it's going to be able to slowly determine your MMR. So part of the problem here is the experience of veteran players getting newbies into their game. While it is a very healthy thing for a game mode to have new players, some players have expressed frustration being matched with beginners. To me, it feels a little lost on them that the best way to avoid having new players into your game is to just not be average in skill. Just be better than average or worse than average, and then you won't have any new players in your game. It has been pretty interesting to see the phenomenon of people installing W3 Champions or going back to it or playing this much more. This is kind of the first time I've had a really big experience like this with noticeable telemetry, where people are buying Warcraft 3, getting W3 Champions just to play this hot new mode that we've all been enjoying so much. Now, any game mode that doesn't have new players coming in would eventually die off, and you would imagine that any new player influx would be widely celebrated by a mode's player base. And generally, by scouring through the Discord of Direct Strike, I have found this to be nearly unanimously true, but not entirely. I have found some people that were the they I was warned about, but anytime I'm going to be showing contentious screenshots, I have censored their names because I don't want anyone to give them any trouble. I'm just trying to get an understanding for what is frustrating them. So generally, it seems like new players is a good thing for a mode, but not in their game, thank you very much. So here I searched for Grubby and I found this. Listen, like I said before, you need to wait until Grubby stops streaming before you queue. It's literally the only way to play right now. And of course he means figuratively, because literally it would be the best way to play, as the amount of people in the matchmaker spikes up enormously during my streams as people are trying to get into the streamer game, which, you know, I think is totally fine. As long as people don't stream cheat, if you just want to play when most people are queuing, if you want to get in my lobby, I welcome that. I don't mind new players in my lobby. I don't mind losing because there's a new player in my team that hasn't figured the game out. We were all new ones, and the more you play, the more you tend to forget it, which is why reminders like this can be a good thing. And another person, B, said, "Is this newbie prime time? I've been matched with a full unranked team 3 games in a row now, XD. Yeah, I don't normally like blaming Grubby, but his viewers really should learn how to play before barraging into ranked direct strike." And I thought that's an interesting thing, because if we held people to that standard in all games, no one would play any games at all. Make sure that you play 100 hours of Warcraft 3 at least before attempting to play Warcraft 3. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Wait, where do you start? Is the chicken first or is the egg first? Well, there is no chicken and there is no egg? Oh shit. I guess the species just doesn't exist then. Yeah, so how would you go about playing Direct Strike before playing Direct Strike? I feel like it's kind of a non-starter, but I can try to come up with something. Let's say instead of being allowed to play on W3 Champions, you would first need to wet your chops on Battle.net. So let's go with that thought experiment a little bit, because there's 2 places to play Direct Strike. Either you can go on official Blizzard Battle.net servers and you can join games, which is just like pick up lobbies, someone hosts a game, anyone can join, you play. That means there is no ranked matchmaking. There is no ranking system, there is no matchmaker, there is no MMR, and therefore there's no SBMM, skill-based matchmaking. And as a result, the potential skill mismatch would be the greatest. If I introduced a friend to Direct Strike and I said go ahead and play on Battle.net, chances are that they, as a non-ranked player, no experience, would end up in a lobby with some sweatlords with level 300 and hundreds or thousands of hours of experience. Is that not, I think, right, logically, potentially worse than starting on W3 Champions, where you are treated as a new player by the system, and it may need some time to get used to your level and your talent at games and your speed of learning and your playstyle, etc. But eventually, your results, because it uses a Glicko 2 and an SBMM skill-based matchmaking system, after a couple of games, they will drop in MMR and then they'll play with people closer to their skill. That's the whole point of a ranked matchmaking system. So I kind of reject this notion that in order to be allowed to play ranked, one must first undergo some kind of rigorous pre-ranked preparation ritual. That don't make no kind of sense to me. Sure, Dota 2 has a rule that for you to be allowed to play in ranked, you need to first get 100 hours of unranked play, but that is caked and built into the system. League of Legends has a prerequisite system as well, where you need to play a certain amount of unranked games in order to be allowed to play ranked. That makes sense, but there is no such stipulation on W3 Champions, so why try to throw up artificial barriers? I just disagree with this mindset a lot, and I disagree with it in general. In my opinion, anyone is allowed to play ranked. You're allowed to display any skill level, because let's say you watching right now, you listening right now, your skill level is 500. Okay, it doesn't matter what the number means or represents, your skill level is 500. You go play and you are very well prepared because you've done as much homework as you can before your first ranked game. Your skill level is now 600 because of preparation. But there's another guy, he's extremely talented, his natural skill level is 700. He also starts playing his first game, did no preparation. Even with your preparation, you are 100 points worse than the other guy. It doesn't matter, the rank system will figure it out. Why should preparation be a part of being allowed to play ranked when you can't even quantify how good someone is at their base level or post preparation? So I disagree with that notion quite a bit. I think the rank system exists to rank everyone, no matter how talented, hardworking, prepared you are, or the complete lack of any of those things. It is not a problem. Rank systems will figure it out. Now, there is a small exception. If a rank system is not functioning properly, if a matchmaker is not functioning properly, if skill is too small of a integer in the mechanisms of a ranked matchmaking, then you can have a frustrating situation where newbie players are placed too highly and will therefore stay afloat in too high ranks too often. I'm not discounting that sometimes happens, but if we assume the ranked system is perfect, then I don't think anyone has any barrier that you need to prepare for in order to be allowed to play ranked if the system doesn't require it. So don't worry, guys. I think it's allowed to be bad, it's allowed to be new, it's allowed to learn at your own pace, it's allowed to try new things, even in a team game. Here's a little question by people that basically echo a feeling I had as well. So basically, I played my placement games. I was completely new to the game and I didn't look up any information about it. I started playing ranked, and the starting MMR is actually 1500 on W3 Champions for Direct Strike. And I actually believe I placed at 13 and 70, so quite below average, which would be normal since I'm new to the game and new to the concept. And then it took quite a long time in order to eventually get back to near 1500. And eventually I started gaining only 2 or 3 MMR points per game when I won. So any progress, even at a 60% win rate, was glacial. So this was an interesting investigation point, and I saw some comments to that effect as well. Pixel Buddha asked, I've got a question. I have 70% win rate in like 50 games, but I only get 3 to 5 MMR per win. Is that normal? Do I have to grind literally hundreds of games here to climb? Yeah, because gaining like 100, 200 MMR, it could take like a month or 2 months, quite long. It is a bit annoying to be adept to, which by the way I am now as well, and play with people who have 5 games and are like 1600 MMR just because they got carried or lucky a few times, right? And Taco Town says, normal is 6 to 9 MMR, you're probably playing against a lot of unranked and very low MMR players. And Pixel Buddha said, yeah, probably, naturally, because since Grubby is doing these streams, 90% of the player base are newcomers, which was true then, and by now it's more, actually. That's the state of the ladder at the moment. I mean, I always offer help and advice and such, but man, I just want to play. I want to point out that this is a valid opinion to have, right? I'm not saying you have to like love every aspect of playing with people that are inexperienced when you are more experienced, and also that MMR progress may seem glacial. So I did think it's a little weird that MMR progress is relatively slow, because it is essentially using the same Glico2, SPMM, and ranking and rating system as the rest of W3 Champions, where if I win a one-on-one game against someone that's relatively equally ranked to me, I'll gain like 20 MMR points. So what gives? Why only 3 or 4? So I looked into this problem, and basically skill-based matchmaking systems that are built around Glico2 have a rating deviation attenuation. Every player has a rating deviation. So basically, to make it simpler and speak in layman terms, it is the uncertainty principle about how accurate your MMR is. So if you are a new player on the ladder, you have a very high uncertainty. It's another way of saying that the matchmaker doesn't know how good you are going to be. But it does allocate the average starting MMR to you, which is 1500 MMR in this particular case. So if a very high uncertainty player is playing in a lobby with 5 very certain veteran players, very low rating deviation, and the player is trashed, and then it happens again and again, then the system can be quite confident in rapidly lowering the MMR of the new player, because he's playing against 5 known quantities that have been entrenched at their MMR for years, let's say, over thousands of games. So clearly, if this player lost to a 1500 MMR club of people, and then lost to a 1300 MMR club of people, and then to 1100, and he keeps losing, it can be quite confident to meteorically lower his standing in MMR. The flip side of that is that when 5 uncertain MMR players with a high rating deviation, they play against a veteran player, or maybe 3 uncertain players play against 3 veteran players, right? when they win or lose, the system has to say, okay, this veteran player, we put him up against an unknown quantity of new players. And so even though the veteran players lost and they're all at 1500 MMR, I'm not sure the veteran player really deserves to lose 20-30 MMR points for that, because I wasn't that confident about the new players to begin with. Their rating deviation was high. Perhaps these are Jesus' Second Coming players, or perhaps these are Battle.net Direct Strike players that came to W3 Champions for the first time and they immediately won. Because I'm not sure, that's why I'm not going to dock 20 points from the veteran players. I'll just take 2 points. At the same time, I'm going to raise the MMR for the new players that have a high uncertainty and that had 1500 MMR. I'm going to raise it and see how they do against 1600 MMR players. They play again, the 3 players win again. It's like, well, again, I'm not going to punish the 1600s MMR too much. And vice versa. So basically, there is a built-in system in all of these Glicko2 ranking systems where if veterans face newcomers, the veterans' MMR will change less, just like was being described here. This is true and real, and this is happening. And because there was such an unusual situation where over 90% of the player base is new, what veteran players were finding out, which after 2-3 weeks I was more veteran than complete beginners, what you're finding out is that it introduces a level of inertia in your MMR because it's never sure if what you just lost to or what you just beat is worthy of a large change in the attenuation of your MMR. So that actually makes a lot of sense, but what that created was a potentially negative experience for me after 2-3 weeks, for people like Pixel Buddha after 2-3 weeks, or however many months he's been playing, right? Where it feels like your MMR isn't changing even though you've got a high win rate. And to their credit, W3 Champions saw this unusual situation with this large, sudden, explicable influx of new players and said, we are momentarily increasing the rating deviation for veteran players. And lo and behold, that happened a week ago. Anyone that has a 60+% win rate has been able to gain hundreds of points of MMR since, rather than just dozens or a few points scrounging here and there. And they're probably gonna revert that change again once the ratio of new players versus veteran players has normalized more. But we're just in a very unusual situation right now, which is why that was probably a good change. So very heads up play by the W3 Champions admins and addressing one experience that some veteran players have had about how I've ruined Direct Strike. There's not just complaints, some people have been quite happy with you guys as well, you guys being the new grublings that have been flooding the Direct Strike ladder. He's got quite a chill stream. The Grubby player base is a pretty welcome one to have come play compared to some other streamers. Most of Grubby's player base, you tell me if this is true, are 30-year-olds holding on to a piece of their youth because they don't want to get old and want to just remember the days when they had no response. No response. No responsibilities. True? True. Grubby himself is around 40, I believe. Not true. Not true. Same age as me, pretty much. Yeah, I'm about to turn 30. Played Warcraft 3 all my childhood. Something about playing Direct Strike and Warcraft 3 makes me so comfy. It's a fantastic game. Grubby is a great influencer of Warcraft 3 community. Is that true, chat? Am I influencing you well? And then they linked my stream. And then one of my viewers, yeah, I started playing after watching Grubby's video. Thanks for being patient with newcomers. If they frustrate you, just point them to a guide. It sure helped me. True, cool. All right, so that's all good then. Yeah, so I think the vast majority of Direct Strike players and Warcraft players have been very welcoming to little grublings. I basically felt that the Dota 2 community was also very welcome of newcomers. Like, ultimately, a player base wants newcomers because it's good and healthy for the game, but then there are frictions in Direct Strike, or like in Dota 2, where if your level isn't up to scratch yet, it can lead to some frustrations. I even noticed this in Elden Ring, where if you start playing Elden Ring, the Elden Ring community is very excited about you starting to play, but because their level is this high and your level is this low, they're like, Come on, dude! There is a sprint button! Use it! Yeah, it took me like 10-20 hours to figure out there's a sprint button, but that's not a crime. You're allowed to be a beginning learning player. And as a veteran player, your perspective changes over time. And then you are not going to be as patient with new players anymore sometimes. And I think it's good to guard yourself against that. Here's another comment. These new waves of players are actually willing to learn and be given suggestions. Grubby W streamer. Yeah, apart from the first day, I've only had positive experiences. All have been willing to take advice, so long as you ask first. Yeah, in my most recent game, I asked the guy building nothing but banshees and teching if he was new or just experimenting. He said he was new, so I suggested getting a hero for the first next time. And after that, he was all about that, asking for help. Who was it? Who was it among you guys? Only banshees, no hero? Hey, at least you were receptive to help. A small point on MMR. MMR is the matchmaking rating. It's a numerical value that's used in competitive games to represent a player's skill level and helping you to match with other players of similar ability in matches. And on W3 Champions, you start at 1500 MMR. I've seen some people ask for, and I actually asked this about a year ago when I was trying to introduce people to W3 Champions for one-on-one. Some people may ask, and it may seem logical, why start it at 1500? Can you not start it at 1000? Because I look at the 1100 MMR players now, and it looks like I would match well with them, you may think. And why do I have to start at 1500? Those guys are pretty good. But ultimately, that's the nature of joining into a player base that has a certain average level. And while it may seem logical to ask for a lower starting MMR, it doesn't actually work. It's pointless, because the starting MMR for any Glico 2 ranked system is actually arbitrary. Whatever number you pick, the deviation above it and below it, based on your level compared to the average player, it will automatically materialize and go towards different numbers. If you start at 1000 MMR, then everybody starts there. Then in order to break away from the pack, you need to be better than the rest. And if you started at 1500, 2000, 5000, 10,000, none of it really matters. There is one alternative thought as well. What if you do start everyone at the average MMR, whatever the number is, by accepting that this number is in fact arbitrary, but you allow new players to say, I am new, and then you give them an immediate minus 300 MMR demerit. You remove it from their starting MMR, so they start at 1200. And while that may work great in a utopia, every good system also exists to be abused, and who's to say that a talented gamer, a prepared gamer, an experienced gamer, someone that played on BNet but didn't play on W3 Champions yet, is not just also gonna press that button so that they can farm more wins and enjoy a temporary higher win rate as they crush other actual newbies. That's gonna happen. So in theory that works, but in reality that's really just not a sustainable idea and is also vulnerable to abuse. All in all, in conclusion, there have been some temporary problems introduced by a new player influx, but ultimately all of this has been a wonderful development for a new game mode, and it's been very fun for me and incredibly gratifying to see how many people have so far been enjoying the game and thanked me for introducing them to the game mode, and they're having so much fun with the game. I imagine it must have been pretty cool too for the map makers of the Direct Strike mod. They probably get some satisfaction from this feeling and from seeing that so many people have been enjoying the mode. And in fact, I hear they're already cooking another patch update coming soon, a week or so, with probably balance changes, who knows, maybe new skins for units, probably some bug fixes, and reportedly also coming out with some changes to some of the AI of different heroes or units that have been a little hesitant at times to cast their spells in the optimal or even acceptable way, their spellcasting intelligence and whatnot. So that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I'm having fun with the game every day. In conclusion, I'm very happy to have ruined Direct Strike. 10 out of 10, would ruin again. And maybe in the future, we can all ruin another game mode together sometime. So for now, that was it. Thank you for watching me. Good luck and have fun in your games, and see you next time.